Hey there everybody, this is Patrick from Lost in Games, and today this is a special edition of What's in the Box. It's a special edition because I am super excited to open this up. I have been waiting 3 weeks to take a peek inside these boxes at World at War 85 by Lock and Load Publishing. So this came out on Kickstarter in early 2019 and I missed it, which I don't know how I missed it, but I did. And so when I found out I missed it and the campaign was closed, to be honest, I was a bit devastated because I really wanted to get this game. And so my hope was I would be able to pick up the retail version and then purchase the different parts separately. But luckily enough, at Noble Knight Games, I was able to pick up the full Kickstarter bundle as one package. And it came in the mail about 3 weeks ago, and it has been sitting on my shelf in the plastic until this moment. So we are going to take a look at what's inside all of these glorious boxes so that you can find out if you want to take a peek at and purchase Storming the Gap World at War. A quick little background on this material. This is the beginning of a game line for Lock and Load Publishing. They have 8 volumes of this targeted and mapped out right now. We're going to talk a little bit more about that after I do the what's in the box and I give you my final impressions on was I actually satisfied with what I found inside of Storming the Gap World at War 85. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we are for the What's in the Box for Storming the Gap World at War 85. So let's start by just taking a look at the boxes themselves, just so you can get kind of a size comparison. The Solo Assistant box is the same size, box shape, box quality as the Nations at War 2nd Edition boxes. So if I set this on top, you can see how much bigger this box is compared to the World at War box. So you already can tell there is a lot of stuff in this box. The other thing to say about these boxes is last weekend I actually started to prepare to do this video and I threw my back out, and I'm not entirely unconvinced it is not due to the heaviness of these particular games. These boxes are really heavy. There is a lot of stuff in them. And this is heavy. The expansion, I think, is even heavier. So I'm just going to hold this up and I'm going to drop this so you can actually hear. That is how heavy these boxes are. So great art on the front, very evocative of the 80s. I'm going to turn it over and you get your typical back for a Lock and Load product. It's got a complexity of 5 out of 10, which is right on par with Nations at War. And as I understand, this is either an offshoot or based on Nations at War, just kind of updated to the 1980s because we have extra technologies, etc. So solitaire playability is 6 out of 10, ages 14 and up, 1 to 2 players for 1 to 2 hours per scenario. And this is something I haven't seen on any game boxes before, is vassal compatibility, which they rate 5 out of 10. So I think it's cool. It shows that vassals come a long way, especially in these uncertain coronavirus times. Vassals getting a lot of use, but it's interesting to see that on a box. So I'm going to turn this over, and we are going to take a look at what we see inside the box. So as I open it up, we have standard D6 dice. We have maps. Comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you played Nations at War or Lock and Load Tactical, you are familiar with these maps. They're made of cardstock. Great graphics on them. Nice big hexes to match the nice big counters that I'm sure are within. I presume you'll be able to put all of these together and form a great big map if you really wanted to. Look at that. Yeah. So, but it is also nice. It is one of the things I like about Nations at War. I'm a huge map nut, and I love those big, huge maps. But sometimes you just don't have the table space, and you can actually play an engaging strategic game using maps these size. So it's wonderful, awesome that they have those in there. For summer, looks like for winter maps. And then we have the World at War 85 core rules. Now these are significantly bigger than the Nations at War rules, and I did purchase separately the spiral bound version of these rules, which is great for the table. But there is a lot in here. We can take kind of a look at it. As you can see, the very large font that Lock and Load products are good for. They're full color. They are extremely, I mean, I love their rule books. They have everything in them. And the other nice thing about these rules, you see that version 2.0, they're constantly updating these rules as they play test and they play these games and they play these games and they just get better and better and better. But like this is outstanding. Shows all the counters, what everything on the counters does. All of the rules, there are a lot of rules in this one. In the back, these always have a great table of contents, or excuse me, an index. And this one looks like it starts on page 105 and goes all the way to 121. So that's 15 pages of index for helping you find that rule that you can't find. So I have complete appreciation for the amount of effort. Rule books are a touchy thing. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're extremely good. Sometimes they're not so good. Sometimes they are so condensed it's really hard to actually find the game. And Lock and Load has gone out of their way to make this as accessible as it can for a moderately complex war game. So, fantastic rule book. Very happy with that. And like your Nations at War and other products, they now have the scenario guide. Looks like this comes with 21 scenarios. Also talks about a formation deck, which if you're not familiar with Lock and Load products, some of them are chit pull, but they have these formation decks. If you don't want to pull the chits, you can actually use cards instead, which is great. But here are 21 scenarios. Looks like scenario to a page, walk you through a couple pages, walk you through how to set these up and play these out. This is a very thick rule book, 130 or module book, 130 pages. So they really go out of their way to really show you how to play and set up these games. So this is a great scenario book. And we have some cards in here, which I don't know if I can get open here. Shows you how fresh, but you can see the cards, objective cards, electronic warfare cards. Here's these formation cards we were kind of talking about. So 2 decks of cards. I presume these are kind of the same. There you have it. So that's there. And then we get into the goodies in the box. So here we have East Germany National Unit Table. And this just looks like it's chock full of player aids, which again, I appreciate. You don't have to go digging through a rule book. It's got all the stuff that you want, when you want it, where you want it, and handy. West German National Unit Chart. This is East Germany National Unit Table. West Germany National Unit Chart. We have Terrain Effects Chart. We have line of sight examples and a handy flyer. Look at that. So you really don't have to go to the rule book and start digging. It's right there. Very clear, well laid out examples. I can tell you again, have I already mentioned this? This is something I love about Lock and Load products. They just really give it to you in the right way. They lay it out the way that you want them to. I wish more publishers would take their time and do it like this. We have the United States National Unit Table. I don't think I actually said what this one was, did I? This was the Terrain Effects Chart. Here's a Soviet Union national unit table. And another Soviet Union national unit table. Looks like they are different. And the United States national unit table. Remember, one of them was called a chart. I don't know what the difference is there. Here we go. So this is outstanding. This is what I was pointing out in the rule book. Here is a beautiful graphical. I remember when I was learning Nations at War, it was, wait, what is that number? Which number am I looking at? And this is freaking perfect because you can look right at it and know exactly what the counter is, where you need to find what you're looking for. So looks like we have some holding boxes for NATO allies, casualties, ready to be deployed. And we have the every die roll in the series. Look at that. Right there. Every die roll you're going to have to make. Here's the rules and where you would find it in the rules. So, again, thank you. Lock and load. And then we have the sequence of play all laid out. I'm going to have to laminate these bad boys. Direct fire modifier. You can see there's a lot more stuff in this, but so I do think this is probably more complicated than Nations at War. I don't think, based on what I've read, it's any less or any more difficult than Lock and Load Tactical, though I think that is a couple notches above. Battle generator and weather change table. You can fight in different kinds of weather. We have the turn record track for NATO and the Soviets. Formation deck. So I think some of these cards, there's a neoprene mat we're going to take a look at later in the what's in the box, and I think some of these are replaced by that neoprene mat. But you wouldn't need it to be the neoprene mat. That's just kind of a bonus for the Kickstarter. These will more than do the job, especially if you're a nerd like me and you laminate this stuff. Formation card inventory. And missile ammo usage charts and special abilities, indirect fire, move and fire summary chart. I mean, they just really throw all these extras at you. That's great. Battlefield events table. And battlefield friction table. That's interesting. That looks great. Okay, so now that we've kind of made our way through these, what do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 counter sheets. And if you have played with Lock and Load, sorry, I'm putting them in the right order. If you've played Lock and Load, you know that they have very impressive counters. Now I'll kind of give you a look at one of them right there. Probably too close. We'll see if we can do a zoom on this while I'm displaying this video. But they are beautiful big counters. They're very colorful. I love their counters because they're thick, they're large, they have all the information on in a nice clean way. They use the different colors right next to each other so that they stand out. Looks like we have here NATO forces and Soviet forces. There's T-72. Those must be East German, I'm guessing. Red are the Soviet, blue are East German. And then you have all of the markers as well. So very good counters. Very good. Very good. I'm already losing some, so I'm nervous. So that is the core box for storming the Gap. There is a lot of stuff in this box, a lot to unbox, a lot to play with. Very good stuff. And you can tell it is very, very heavy. Good box. So that is the core box. And so now let's take a look at the expansion here, storming the Gap. So again, another heavy box. As you can hear, we have 3 expansions in here: the Defense of Frankfurt, Storm and Steel Second Wave, and the Drive on Gießen. So I'm not back, but let's take a look at what we see inside the box. So right off the bat, we have a pile of maps, literally, where there were 4 of each kind in the other one. There is a ton more in here. We have 1, we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 maps in here, and I think these maps actually weigh more than the Solo Assistant box. Now, there's not a lot in the Solo Assistant box. This is quality over quantity, but these are heavy. A lot of stuff in there. And then we have cards, and it looks like we have more formation cards. I'm not going to open these yet since I opened the others, but a lot of cards. Almost looks like as many as the other, as the core. And then we have these are called data cards. What are these? So these look like there's a card for the different units. Okay, I get it. So basically, there's a lot of extra rules in here representing the different modern technologies. And so when you decide what scenario you're going to play, not only will you pull the counter, but you'll pull a data card. And this is really cool. I like this. So on the data card, you can see that it'll have what weapons or any special rules, all the critical statistics that you need to know for that particular unit type, including where to find the rules that help. So, you know, for the Munga 106 millimeter recoilless rifle, here's its move, its armor piercing, its explosive rules, all that, the ranges and all that, but also you can see special functionality, so soft armor target and where the rules are in the rule book so you can look it up. Or in the case of this sniper here, looks like here's the rules for an anti-tank guided missile, and just a reference. So that's pretty great. You can pull out the right card for the right, and you don't have to go digging and looking for the rules. It tells you right where to look. Again, this is what Lock and Load is really good at, really laying out the rules in a very digestible way. They try and make it as easy as possible to be playing the game and not looking up the rules, which is something that is a total battle in the wargaming world. So yeah, here's helicopter movement rules, ground transport rules, light armor target rules, heavy armor target rules. That's great. These are amazing. I just love that they included these in the game. And then we have Storming the Gap, the Defense of Frankfurt module. Looks like there's two very large scenarios, 13-page scenarios. So there you go. Oh yeah, look, you can see it. Actually, this is where you're going to put all those little maps together into one giant monstrosity. So very cool. So that is Defense of Frankfurt. About 40 pages worth of rules and campaigns. And then we have a campaign system, the Drive on Gießen. I'm probably not saying that right, but you'll have to live with it. And we have the campaign map. These are the rules to run a campaign. So I'm guessing, without having read anything about this, you'll make your way through the different campaign battles, and whoever gets to the other person's side is the winner of the campaign. I could be totally wrong about that. Just putting that out there. But that's what I think it is. So very short, only like 15 pages, but short and sweet. It's got what it needs. And then we have module and scenario rules for the second wave. Here we have what looks to be 6 additional scenarios and a few extra rules like night fighting and combat engineers. So more. So if I put all of these together, we're probably looking at, between both of these games, somewhere around, 30-ish scenarios, maybe more. So Okay, so these are, looks like player aids, have the different counter references, operation. So these must be for the campaign mode. Looks like they have a NATO one, and they have a Warsaw Pact one. Sequence of play, the campaign rules, and then it looks like we have a campaign map. One for the Soviets, one for NATO. I don't know why we would have two, but I haven't read the rules yet. Maybe they're just being thorough, because if anything this set has taught us is that lock and load is thorough. We have a bunch more player aids, West Germany national unit chart for Storm and Steel. National unit chart, again, just like in the other box. We have, hey, the Czechoslovakians are in the fray. National unit tables. So not sure the difference between the table and chart, or if there is a difference. Defense of Frankfurt, United States national chart. We have the Defense of Frankfurt, United States national unit table. Got the cost of the units here, so when you're building your own battles, you can buy them. Soviet Union national unit tables for Defense of Frankfurt. So obviously in the full version of this, obviously there's 3 expansions in here, so I don't know if Lock and Load is ever going to break this into 3 and sell them separately or not, if they're going to keep them in the box. I don't know why anyone would buy them separately. Just having that nice beautiful box sitting right alongside just seems to be the thing to do, in my opinion. But hey, some people don't do that. That was West Germany, and here's more Czechoslovakian. The Czechs are in the fray. And then we have unit, and then we have all of our counters. And again, we already talked about the big units. Here's unit markers, utility counter sheet. We have, this is the drive on Gisan. These must be campaign markers, or at least that come with that set. And then we have 2 counter sheets for the Storm and Steel second wave. So here's the NATO forces, and then here is what looks to be East German. I think blue they're saying is East German. There's T-72s in there, and the red I'm assuming are Soviet, so I'm betting those are East German. Or oh, duh. Hello, Patrick. Those are Czechoslovakian units, probably. And then we have, for Storming the Gap, Defense of Frankfurt, more Soviet units, and we have, looks like more NATO units in here. So there you have a lot more units. Between these 2 boxes, you have a ton of units to play for, a ton of units to put in Lock and Load's ammo crate if you happen to have one. So here we go. Whoops, let me put this here. And before we move on to the next box, I just think these are so cool. I cannot wait to dig into these. I just think this is good. Good stuff here. I can't wait to look through these. I just love that they put the special rules in here. So there you go. There is the expansion. And now we are going to take a look at the Solo Assistant. So I have the Solo System for the Lock and Load Tactical System. This looks like it is a duo Solo Assistant for Nations at War and World at War. So I didn't have one for Nations at War, so I got 2 birds with 1 stone here. So it's a big box. This probably could have come in a Ziploc, but this is one of those things where there's not going to be a lot in the box, which is fine, because what is in the box is very valuable. So these 2 card packs and this very brief set of rules, 25 pages here, and this little player aid give you everything you need to be battling an AI assistant, an AI for Nations at War or for World at War. So, do not be fooled when I said, look at all of the awesome stuff and value in the Storming the Gap big box and in the expansion box. This is truly a question of quality over quantity. It has everything you need and would want to do the solo gaming. So it is a very good addition. Very good addition. I'm really glad that they included this as part of the Kickstarter, and I'm really glad they have it for this game line. Now I'm going to show you one other thing that came with the Kickstarter, and that is the neoprene map. I had this kind of splayed out in the beginning. So inside the World at War 85 core box, there were several play aids that are on cardstock. Looks like they put them all in this nice neoprene mat, so you can have your formation cards, your turn track, your weather. Here's the casualties, suppressed headquarters. So it's just all in one nice neoprene map. I don't know which one I would use, and I would say that it will probably be a question of table space. I would love to use this every time, but I also don't know that I have a table upstairs. I don't know that I have a table that will accommodate the full map yet. The 4x2. So, but I think this is really cool. Looks like it's really well done, neoprene. Sometimes they always come off as faded, and you have trouble reading the different words, especially the small text, but I can read all of these very clearly. Artillery delivered mines. See? Okay, so I am now going to move on to my final thoughts. Okay, so you have now seen inside these boxes. What do I think? I think this is outstanding. I think the game itself looks super fun, very reminiscent of Nations at War, with more stuff, obviously, because we have new technologies and all of that. I think, and Nations at War is right about the complexity level. That is my favorite. I think the components, as you saw, Lock and Load went above and beyond with these things. This is a gorgeous game. These boxes are filled to the brink with stuff. There is a ton of gameplay in here. I think this is going to be an amazing game. I cannot wait to play it. I will come back and I will do a review of this after I have put it through its run. But overall, based on what I have seen, I think this is fantastic, well worth the money in my opinion. When I think about this, I think about my shelf, and I think about these two large boxes sitting on my shelf and all of the game value in there. And then I remind myself, and I do this with a beautiful smile played upon my face, that there are going to be 8 volumes in this series. And if we're lucky, it'll be a main box and an expansion pack with it. That would be so outstanding. I can just see them now sitting across the top of my shelf, and it is amazing. So I did take some notes down because I want to make sure you hear this and I get it right. There are 7 games to go. I was lucky enough to have a conversation with Mr. David Heath, who's in charge of Lock and Load Publishing. I believe he's the owner. And he said that they are hard at work on the 2nd volume. So I really hope we see that come to Kickstarter at some point. This time I am not going to miss it, and I will make sure to announce it on my channel so that everybody knows. But then after that, the 2nd volume is going to cover Northern, West Germany, Denmark, and Free Europe. The 3rd volume is called Untold Battles, and that is going into the Low Countries like France, etc. The 4th volume is America Breached, and that is Central American Alliance storms across the border of the southern United States. The 5th volume is Strike Force Africa. Soviet Union and its Cuban allies widen the scope of the war in Angola and Southwest Africa. So there's a lot going on there. 6th volume, the Soviets open up another front in the Arctic Circle. So we're going to finally see some Scandinavian battling, which is great. The 7th volume is When the Lion Roars. This is where the Middle East erupts and Israel and the other Middle Eastern countries get into the fray. And last but not least, one I'm really excited for, Red Dragon Rising. That is where China, Vietnam, all of the Southeast Asian countries enter into the conflict. So not only is this a great package for you to play now, and this will keep you busy for an incredible amount of time. They are all in on this product line, and I, for one, am super excited to see where they go and for these to come out. The last thing I'd probably like to say is I do think this time period is a very exciting time period to have a war game set in. You know, obviously there's a lot of war games set during the major conflicts of the 20th century and before that, but World War I, World War II, there's less in Korea, there's some in Vietnam, we do have some, you know, in Desert Storm and in that area. But just from a philosophical note, you know, I was in high school when in the 80s, and so this is kind of my area. It is the height of the Soviet Union and the United States in the Cold War. Both sides were literally poised, and something like what happens in this could have happened. And I remember being in high school with my friend Paul, and we researched all the planes and all the tanks and all the military equipment and talked about this all the time. And this time period, it's very nostalgic for me just because it brings me back to that time of my life. But I do think it's a fascinating sandbox of what if. And I'm really glad that Lock and Load Publishing has decided to really focus their efforts to take a look at this area and produce a great game using these technologies and that time period. So there you have it. We have Storming the Gap, World at War 85, Volume 1. Well done, Lock and Load. Well done. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a good day, and don't forget to get lost in games.